EVERSTREAMs. We'll strip away the power, hear our piercing screams. Yeah, we won't be silenced anymore. Break free from the chains that they adore. Stand tall, Unrig in the game we rise. We'll bring reality from their lies. Unrig the game, unleash the fury.
This is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Greetings and welcome to Unrig the Game. How's it going, everybody? Hope you are doing and living well. Here we are, chapter 9 tonight of Woke Inc. by Vivek Ramaswamy. And of course, we are on the kickoff show right now. This is the kickoff show. So what we do is we are on all three platforms, YouTube, X, and Rumble, the ones we broadcast to, and we do this kickoff show here for the YouTube crowd. And then we go exclusively to X and Rumble for the feature, for the featured reading. And tonight it's chapter 9, the Silicon Leviathan, out of Woke Inc. by Vivek Ramaswamy. So I hope you guys will stick around and enjoy that with us on the kickoff show tonight. We'll go over the new federal judge rules against Google and massive antitrust lawsuits. Since we were just talking about the social dilemma last night, I thought this would be timely. So we'll go over that. We'll talk about Steven Crowder getting banned up until our past the election, and then we're gonna check out that interview that everybody's talking about that Vivek Ramaswamy just did against a lib journalist, and he tore it up, and he showed you how you handle people like that. I'll tell you what, it's a great one. And also I'm going to feature a creator that seems to see things the same way at the same time, so we'll get his analysis as well. How's everybody doing out there? Let's say hello to the crowd. Wolfram, thank you for dropping the links, and remember to listen to the Wolf. Please like, subscribe, ring that bell, set notifications wherever you're at, so that you can always catch our shows. I do 4 to 5 shows a week. And he wipes his paws, lips, and house, and that's how you know he's here. There's Shelly. Shelly's always there saying hello to Wolfram right there. And there's Cool Gamer. What's up, Cool Gamer? How you doing? All right, guys. We are off and rolling on all 3 platforms. So happy that you've decided to join us this evening, and I hope you'll stick around for the show. This is the kickoff show, so we're going to get to some breaking news here. Just a reminder, tomorrow night I'll be back with Winning 2024, election and politics news. We'll be covering potential VP candidates for the Democrat side, their upcoming convention. We're going to be probably piggybacking off of Dom Lucre's on this coverage on that, because he's going to be getting some, he's going to be going there, and he'll probably be asking some real good questions. So it should be pretty good. And then we'll talk more about July 13th. There's some new stuff that came out we need to take a look at, and there may be some grifts and debunks in there, may not. I don't know. People are starting to chill out a little bit, but we'll see. And also we'll talk more about any kind of election news. There you have it. There you have it. All right. Right off the bat, let's get into it. So I caught this today just in time. Where is it? There we go. All right. Federal judge. This is real quick. So let's talk about that. Just kind of fill us in on what's going on here.
Breaking news this hour, a federal judge has just ruled against Google in a massive antitrust lawsuit. That suit involves its core business, online searches. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is here to help unpack all of this. Brian, this is a big win.
This is like the key thing, right? Searches and ad revenue is the thing that keeps Google and YouTube and all that. Keeps the stranglehold on YouTube, by the way. That's the one thing anybody will tell you, that's why Rumble and other platforms can't do as well, because they have a stranglehold on all this stuff. So here we go.
Win for regulators, right? Because they have been trying to argue that there was a monopoly here at Google.
Yeah, and by the way, we're still poring over this 286-page document from the District of Columbia. Really, this is a massive antitrust ruling that the judge in this case is turning onto the Sherman Act. This is basically an antitrust law that we've heard in the context of a big landmark case against Microsoft in 2001, now being used against Google here. And this judge found that there were basically two areas where Google was basically engaging in antitrust: search and text advertising, that they basically control the monopoly. They said it for the search engine. They were basically coercing companies into making Google the default search engine and not giving them much choice to go elsewhere, simply because of the massive scale that they have on advertising dollars. And on text advertising, they pointed to a pretty jarring stat that in 2020, its market share in that market was 88%. So you have Amit Mehta, the judge, saying, quote, Google is a monopolist and has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. This is a huge win for the 38 states and territories that were on this suit. What happens next? We don't know. Could there be injunctions? Could there be criminal fines potentially? We'll have to see. But the stock is down almost 4.5% on a day that's already been pretty bad for Wall Street.
We're talking at the top of the hour about how bad this day is already on this in the stock market. So essentially, this means the judge is saying Google went to other companies, like other phone companies, and made deals that they were going to use the Google search.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, when you think about on all the devices that we have, if you're on a Mac, if you're on a browser, if you're, I mean, it's the software as well. In many cases, Google is the default browser. They're alleging that the way that they made themselves a default browser through some of these deals and agreements is antitrust.
And has Google said anything to this point?
Google has not responded. We did reach out to a request for comment. They haven't said anything so far, but we'll have to see, and we'll be keeping our ear to it.
Is it too soon to ask if this changes how we, I mean, we use Google as a verb, Brian. Is it going to change how we search?
Well, I mean, you know, you would imagine that Google's defense of this would be, well, maybe our market share is so large because we're just the best search engine and we offer the best text ads.
And they have argued that in court.
And they have argued that. But again, this judge didn't seem to agree with that. The real big question here, Kate, is what can be done about this, right? Google is already a massive company among other tech giants. What can be done here? We don't know. We'll have to see whether or not there's any sort of penalties, injunctions, or et cetera.
All right, Brian Chung on that breaking news for us. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news. And
there you go. So that's good. That's good news. I should actually go in the good news of the week, but I thought since we just covered it last night on an Old School Watch Party Sundays, which, by the way, if you didn't get a chance to check that out, The Social Dilemma was a really good documentary. It was really good. It exposed a lot of issues from people that were in front of them. You know, you might not agree with their solutions or some of their takes on issues, but the technical aspect of it, how the model is constructed, all this stuff, critical information for understanding how you're being influenced and persuaded by technology, and especially your kids as well. I even had my son sit down and watch it today. So it's definitely good stuff. And it can arm you with a lot of knowledge that can help protect you and others that you care about. So there you have it. But anyways, yeah, I just want to throw that out there because like many content creators will tell you that it's the Google ad revenue that drives YouTube's popularity amongst creators. That's why everybody, you know, doesn't just get up and leave YouTube. They kind of like, they branch out, but they don't leave it because really this is the home base as far as like launching. And this is where everybody is. And this is where the ad, you know, for people that depend on it for a living or want to at least, you know, get their time paid for that they put in, the ad revenue is better over here. I mean, shoot, I think Rumble, as much as I love Rumble and what they're doing over there, I've had money like tied up for over a year that I still haven't got from them. So they still have a lot of work to do on that front. And like the ad revenue stuff doesn't make any sense on that side, but that's fine. I mean, we're there for the freedom, right? We're there for the freedom. And by the way, Rumble, if you're out there and you're watching on Rumble, man, thank you for watching on Rumble and supporting that platform. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and go ahead and follow. We're up to 468, and there's a competition going on between my Rumble channel and my X channel as to who can get to 500 first. And we've had some developments. Rumble is up to 468, which is awesome. So we're trying to get that up to 500, but X just took a commanding lead. And of course, with X, it could go up and down in any second. So we're up to 491. Yeah, they want that title. I'm gonna go ahead and say now that in order for X to win, they got to cross 500 and they got to stay there, right? Because we were up to 477, then it dropped down, and so obviously there's a lot of probably bot accounts or something like that. They just add themselves to your profiles just to be certain that it's really 500 people, right? We'll have to give it once they cross 500, you have to hold on to it and stay there for a minute, all right? But hey, you're close. You only need 9 more. And you've got at least the first to break 500. You get that, you'll always have that title X if you do that first. So in Rumble, don't let it go that easy, man. You guys fight back. I want to see you guys get there. All right, let's do it. Okay. Next up. Did you guys hear about this? This is some stuff that we've been kind of keeping an eye on. Stop. Don't even do that. All right. No, you're good. If you're following, and you're also, by the way, and I didn't do this, you just reminded me, I'm glad you did. Thank you to all the YouTube recurring members out there, including Wolfram, who's also a recurring member over on Rumble, as well as Shelly. But thank you to everybody that is supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot. Thank you to of course, to Shelly and Wolfram, to T-Rex, to Enya, to Rabbit, Iron Rabbit now, Mimsy, Angry Conservative, and Cool Gamer, as well as Murph's Turf. Thanks to each and every one of you for being the ultimate winners and supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. And you guys make it happen, man. You guys make it happen. All right. So next up, we want to take a look at, let me get this right and ready. Whoa. It's like giving me one window than the other. Okay, this one. Steven Crowder, right? We're not going to watch all of this, but we'll watch some of it. And like I said, when Jeremy's in his wheelhouse, I don't mind showing his stuff. And then when he's not, I don't mind pointing it out. All right, so here we go. Hopefully this intro is safe too. I'm sure he made it safe because he's Mr. Safety Guy. All right. He's got some great screen grabs when he watched the Crowder stream. So we're going to watch this. Yeah, banned for very absurd reasons. Wait till you see how they did them. Wait till you see this. This stuff's going to blow your mind, especially if you're a creator. You're going to be like, what? Oh, wait, we got to do something first. All right. We got to do something first. Let's do this thing. Talking Trash and Truths, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. We need this on Monday. You know what I want? Gimme. And you got it. And Wolfram especially thanks you as well. All right. Thank you so much for that, Shelly. Appreciate it. And yeah, that we definitely needed some of that. So here we go. Steven Crowder declares war on YouTube after absurd reason for ban revealed. Wait till you see this.
Remember the 5th of November, the election interference and plot.
Another season, same old YouTube BS, election interference, hashtag. They want to shut us up, but we're not going anywhere. Now is when we fight like hell. All right.
I know of no reason why the election interference should ever be forgot.
Like, can you guys see that? Hold on, let me expand this. Actually, let me just drop down here. Here we go. All right. Can you guys see that? Look at this. Look at this. Look at these hits he got. All these right here. August 2nd. That expires October 31st. But look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 harassment and cyberbullying claims of policy violation and 1 hate speech.
First, the overture, yes. And then the chant, let's go, Brandon. And now the bass drum. Can you hear it?
I can hear it. Look outside, Bobby. They're playing. How do you do that?
wait. Comes the question.
Our big tech overlords are scared because they know we are gearing up for the largest election night live stream ever. They actually outdo a lot of coverage with their election night coverage. They actually, outpace the mainstream media. We're not going anywhere now. Is when we fight like hell. We won't be on YouTube for a while, but ready your butts for what I have to say Monday at 10. That was today, 10 a.m. So he said something earlier. We'll see it here, I guess. Other elections season, same old interference. Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. Just got done watching Steven Crowder's live stream where he laid out exactly how he ended up suspended from YouTube up until right before the election. Essentially, as he has put it, this was a direct shot across the bow at one of the largest conservative shows on the platform. I think that's a fair way to categorize it. His live streams, when I tuned out, he had almost 100,000 people watching him on the Mean Green website. That site where nobody is. And
Rumble.
I have to say, this is very, very concerning. Now, I have been somebody who, as you guys know, love it or hate it, somebody who really tries to kind of stay within the rules. And a lot of people have always said, well, dude, who cares? Why don't you just leave? Why don't you just leave YouTube? That would be foolish. It is where the overwhelming majority of people reside. If you just leave, you can't tell people about other free speech alternatives. That's just the way it is. Obviously, also, 80% of the money is still on YouTube. Until such a point where that is different, why would anybody leave? But I do use my platform to often say, hey, if you like free speech, pick up your phone, tablet, or TV, or Xbox, download the Rumble app, follow the Quartering, follow Steven Crowder.
Big reality.
At the expense of losing that ad revenue. I don't care. I
that.
prefer people would watch my videos on free speech platforms, even though I don't make any money from them currently, because free speech is extremely important. Now, I do have a deal with Rumble, which does help, but I've always said this a long time before I ever did. So Steven Crowder put out, update. We'll be starting a show at a special time today, late. The Quartering's never late. We're live at 1 Eastern. Well, sometimes we're late, but it's like a minute. YouTube hit 8 of our videos with strikes, including 7 for being mean. We are reaching out to YouTube for answers right now. This was a warning shot from Google. If it's war they want, it's war they shall get. Now, I was curious, okay, is this just another opportunity to get people to sign up for Mug Club? That would be obviously a great thing to do. I probably should be telling people to sign up for my locals. I have a locals, and it's similar. It's much cheaper than Mug Club, but nonetheless, he put out this article saying YouTube has banned us until the election. On Friday afternoon, left-wing activists launched their largest attack on our channel yet. We received 8 strikes. Strikes on 8 different videos, and one of them was from over a year ago. Basically, outside of the year-old one, YouTube struck down a live stream since Democrats started to install Kamala Harris as their candidate. I'll have a lot to say about this potential harassment and meanness on Monday, which I will tell you what he said. Essentially, they had a Kamala Harris doll.
It's all about silencing you, man. Silencing you. When they can't discredit you any longer, they silence you. But they continually discredit through their own social engineering. However, when you get to be as big as Crowder and they can't control anything, they can't shadow ban you, they can't take you out of search recommendations, they can't do things like that, then that's when they really start to attack.
All on the set. I don't know if it was like a blow up doll or whatever the case was. YouTube didn't like it, and anytime they showed it on camera or if they referred to her as one of the many nicknames that people bring up about Kamala Harris, that had then counted as, a strikeable offense.
Right, and which is biased as can be because she's a public figure, which I'm sure he'll bring up. And think about all the things they've done to Trump, like all the things they've allowed on the platform that is, way overboard. People holding up a severed head, doing things like that, and they just allow that stuff to keep on going.
Which, here's the thing: if YouTube was evenly applying this, which they, in my opinion, were not, then Stephen Colbert should have gotten a strike when he referred to Donald Trump's mouth as Putin's junk holder, or when there's was it Samantha Bee calling Melania a "see you next Tuesday"? These are public figures. You're allowed to insult them. You're allowed to parody them. This is well within the realms of free speech, and I don't think you can bully the potential president. All you need to do is turn on any late night television show, which their clips proliferate on YouTube. to find endless personal attacks on Donald Trump, and none of these videos are ever getting struck down. The fact that there were 8 of these means that somebody painstakingly went through all of Crowder's videos and struck them down. It's wild. He writes, our big tech overlords are scared because they know we are gearing up for the largest election night live stream ever. I'll tell you now, obviously, Crowder, this is his world, his game, but I will also be live streaming on election night. And I read my chat. And, if you want a little smaller, chiller environment, hopefully you'll come by my election live stream. It'll hopefully be my biggest live stream ever, too. Probably won't be like Crowder when he gets 400,000 people, but this is also not the first time. In fact, Crowder was also suspended during the primaries. Or midterms, I'm sorry, and now the election. It seems like what he is saying is that people are picking the strategic times to suddenly start caring about stuff, and then, whoops, you're striked up until like past October. Can't slip up, can't do anything else. Big tech overlords are scared because they know we're gearing up for the largest election night stream ever. This isn't about us. It's about the silencing any and all opposition to their narrative. And it's only the start of what they will do before November. They want to keep you in the dark so you don't question anything. Why isn't Kamala Harris answering questions? Don't worry about it. Why has she suddenly flip-flopped every position she had 4 years ago? Don't worry about it.
Right.
Why are there 10 million plus
Oh, yeah,
illegals?
that's the gist of it. I don't want to go on forever about the same shit. But yeah, so Crowder got banned. That sucks. It shouldn't happen. The reasons are ridiculous and manufactured. And again, this kind of plays back into the original story is that, the reason why Google is allowed to get away with this stuff and hang on to people that are as big as Crowder
over the border
of the ad revenue, because of the search monopoly and all the things that came out today, and that they lost that antitrust lawsuit. So these two kind of go together with each other, these two stories back to back. And I hope that what comes out of it is
the outcome of the election would have been different had voters had access.
That's even and for everybody, and it abides by the it's constitutional in its matter. It abides by the Constitution, right? And that we have free speech, and that they really take a look at their content ID system and don't just they make that a more fair process, or they just roll it back because it's not fair. They don't know how to look for transformative content. They don't know what that is, and the rules there are very sketchy. All these things need to be redone. But I'll tell you what, if Google just didn't have a monopoly on search and a monopoly on ads, then that would change the game right there. I'll take that. I'll take that. The rest I can deal with and go to platforms that allow more free speech or more content transformation than YouTube. And tell you what, if you can make as much on Rumble as you could on YouTube, they're going to have to they're going to have to do something about that, or people will just go to Rumble and do it instead. Same with X. So we'll see. But good stuff here. All right. So Vivek Ramaswamy had it's called Press Club with Aidan McLaughlin. Yeah. He had an interview on there. He's not scared to go do an interview anywhere, right? He's got it covered no matter where he's at. So they tried to throw some zingers at him. They try to do a few things. Look, this guy has like a Romney book on it. So let me bring this up. This guy's like a Romney book back here. Romney. That's what you're reading, and you think you're like you think you know politics, huh? All right. Anyways, he absolutely killed this. He did a great job on it. This is an analysis video. It's got it comes from a channel called it's an Australian dude, Rattlesnake TV. Just subscribe. All right. There you go, Rattlesnake. So I like his takes, man. So let's take a listen to this. And let's see. I've been leaving remarks on Green Day's new video over the Trump head they held up at their concert last. They did that again. Why aren't they that video should be taken down everywhere, that if they're playing by the same rules, that is. Although I think we prefer to play by the the law, the real rules, the law, which says public figures are open for public scrutiny in whatever way, shape, or form. I mean, it's not cool to be holding someone's head up like that. It's inciting, especially in this day and time. But they can't give Crowder a hard time for having a blow up doll that looks like Kamala, because most of them do. But anyways, hey Mimsy, what's up? How you doing? Hotep Jesus was off a week and now demonetized. Dang, what? I loved watching them on YouTube on late afternoon. They said no more content on YouTube. That's it. They just kind of brushed their hands and walked away. Just demonetized, and that's it. Not fighting it, not trying to make a stand, not going on and doing the circuit, talking about it. You should. We gotta stand up and fight, man. It's like this is this is all very intentional, and it's just like kind of like losing. It's like losing a fight in the culture war or something. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit too far. Anyways, I wish the best for Hotep, and then I hope that he gets his channel remonetized and continues to fight and put out good content. All right, here we go. We gotta get this rolling. Check it out. I think you guys are really gonna dig this.
The outcome of the election would have been different had voters had access to that.
Do you think that there was voter fraud specifically?
So of course there's voter fraud.
I do want to understand how you went from just 2 years ago calling Trump's conduct downright abhorrent to then.
So I've said this during the campaign. If you're paying attention, I hate to break it to you, but there's the lack of originality in this.
Because you wrote in your book that the institution.
Are we still doing this, man? I mean, because I think that
book is 2 years old. Trump does win in 2024. Would you consider working in his cabinet?
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we're going to be covering a new debate between Vivek Ramaswamy and a Mediaite journalist. Now, this debate covers some very, very important ground, from election fraud and integrity to the left's recent treatment of JD Vance. And then at the end, Vivek reveals some important information about his next move when questioned if he is going to be in the Trump cabinet. So with that, let's get into the first bit. This bit gets progressively more heated about election integrity.
I want to talk about the.
I can't help but think or be reminded of Grayson Waller. I know Shelley's laughing right now. Okay, when that guy's talking. He's a wrestler.
Media and the 2024 election.
This bit gets progressively more heated about election integrity.
I want to talk about the media and the 2024 election. Donald Trump, who you support, still hasn't conceded the last election, which creates a challenge for the media, which has to now prepare for the likelihood that if he does lose this next one, he will claim that it was stolen as well. Can I just say a word about that, just to provide some level of historical context? Donald Trump is now running, it would look like, against Kamala Harris, who back in 2016 called Donald Trump an illegitimate president. Hillary Clinton said the election of 2016 was an illegitimate election, that there was Russian interference that caused Americans across the board, especially on the Democratic side of the aisle, to question the outcome of that election and the legitimacy of that presidency. So I do think that, I hope that what happened in the last month, and here I'm referring to the assassination attempt that, thank God, was not successful, if that is a wake-up call to all of us, let it be that we can't resort to histrionics in our politics to say one candidate or the other is an existential threat to democracy, but instead to have a reasoned, thoughtful exchange of competing visions for the country. Donald Trump offers a very different vision for the future of the country than that which Kamala Harris offers. That's fine.
You see how Vivek does this? He always is moving things back to the conversation where he wants the conversation to be, which is on policy. He wants to get away from the dirty side of politics, the personal side of things, right? He really wants to stay. He just believes if we stay on message about the policies and one of the right ones, right, and do it in a civil manner, we'll win more people over. And he's right, And so, like, wherever he's going, whatever he's engaging with, media, interviews, whatever it is, just even people on the street, he's really good about not giving into pettiness. He really stays on point. This is one reason why he's solid, right? Is because he just realizes, yes, everybody's going to try to pull you off point. Everybody's going to try to pull you in different directions. Stick to what you want to say. Stick to where you want the conversation to be and what you think's best, right? And that's what he does. And he's solid about it. He's almost unbreakable when it comes to it.
Fine. The beauty of the country is we ought to be able to have that and air that debate in a way that voters are actually able to make that choice without feeling like they have a gun to their head, literally or metaphorically, with respect to the threats of the existence of democracy, which I just don't think is constructive. So if you want to go to sort of election denialism or whatever, who started it, this discussion could go back to Bush v. Gore. You have people who didn't vote to certify that election. I just think looking backwards to that, I just don't think find it that constructive versus an honest and rich and, when needed, contentious debate between competing visions for the future.
Well, you've said that the 2020 election was stolen by big tech. What do you mean by that? Lay out that argument for us.
Well, look, I think that what we know, right? I stick to facts, right? What we know is that certain stories were systematically suppressed that would have, we know through polling, had an impact on the outcome of the election. The most notable of them, you will well know, is the Hunter Biden laptop story. Not only
which Zuckerberg just recently apologized to Trump for.
Was that dismissed? It was systematically suppressed. The New York Post, the fourth largest newspaper in circulation, founded by Alexander Hamilton, had its own account locked on Twitter, now X, then Twitter, that stopped them from even publishing a story that we now know to be true, but was dismissed systematically. If you were on Facebook or other messaging platforms, even in the equivalent of email, if you were to try to share that story from the New York Post, that was suppressed. I think that had a more profound impact on the outcome of the election than any magnitude of political consultant-made advertisements on television. If you look at a lot of the polling, independents who answered afterwards said if they had been exposed to that information, it would have caused them to evaluate the candidates differently. I think that's regrettable. I don't think we want to live in a country where large, quasi-monopolistic, coordinated with state actors, tech companies, are suppressing the information that's available to the voting public. I don't think that that's good for democracy. I don't think that's good for America. And I hope we don't repeat those same mistakes next time around, which is why I've been so intent on pointing that out.
This is a slightly different argument that you make from Trump's claim, which is that the election was stolen through outright fraud. Do you disagree with that claim from Trump?
So look, I've shared with you what my views are. I ran in the primary, and I have my views. I do think that the strongest case for election interference in the 2020 election, it's driven by data, is that the outcome of the election would have been different had voters had access to that.
Do you think that there was voter fraud specifically?
So of course there's voter fraud.
Before we get to the next clip, guys, if you don't mind liking the video, it does help me a lot, considering that I do face quite a bit of censorship on this channel, and also subscribing to the channel as well if you're enjoying it here. And don't forget to check out the Reality Based store, guys. We've got new merch coming out every single week. I'm wearing the Life's Tough Get a Helmet shirt today, one of my favorites, and we've got so much more. So make sure to browse that catalog just below and see what you like. And also, if you do buy something, you're helping me stay independent. So just go to realitybasedstore.com. Links are all below. See what you like. Let's get back to the video.
So yeah, you see, me and Zuckerberg was trying to save face for, yeah, I mean, save face. I don't know, man. He looks like he's for some reason, he looks like he's chilled out. He's been taking some jujitsu. He's growing his hair out. I don't know. Maybe he's just finally got his head out of his ass. I doubt it. But anyways, don't search Zuckerbucks. Oh, got ya. Okay, I won't do that. I don't know. Maybe they decided he was useless now and they're gonna throw him out, and he figured, oh shit, I better have come to Jesus here and get right with things. I don't know. We'll see. I doubt he'll ever be trustworthy again, though. Not anytime soon, at least.
That's well known.
Enough
to that's the open question. That's the open question. And here's where I am. I said this earlier. I'm going to say it again. The only point of talking about this is, are we going to make for a better country in the future by making changes? Here's what I do favor. I think this would be healing for the country. I think this would be a massive step forward for public trust in the United States of America. If we accepted a system of single-day voting on election day, make it a national holiday, a uniting day to say this is one day we all take to think about our civic duties. We cast that ballot with mandatory government-issued ID to match the voter file. And you look at what's happening with CrowdStrike or other risks recently, paper ballots to backstop it. If we get to that place, which I think most Democrats, most Republicans find to be reasonable, then I'll commit to you that I would lead the way, and I believe most Republicans, I'd call on them to do it too, to be done with election complaints about election integrity, questioning the outcomes of elections. I will pledge to be vehemently opposed to doing any of that in the future if we get to a rational system of how we conduct elections that actual Americans have public trust in.
You said it's an open question, which is notable because you wrote the opposite in your book in 2022, just 2 years ago. You wrote that you accepted the results of the election. You said that there was no evidence of fraud, that U.S. security.
I haven't seen evidence, right? No. The fraud of a scale that would have this, of course,
right? You said it was an open
documented case of it. Can I just ask a question? I mean, I'm interested in the future. So I said I was having this discussion. It's what I've said several times in this discussion. I want to make the United States of America a better country. I don't think it is productive for either side to go back and obsess over relitigating the past. And the only reason I'm even bringing up the Hunter Biden laptop story, you asked about it, is because I think there are lessons for it for the future. What's the lesson here? I believe our country would be better off if we strengthened our election integrity and public trust in elections with voter ID requirements, make it single day, make it a national holiday to permit everyone to do it. And I think that will actually bring the country together. So I'm just not interested in having retroactive games of which side said what, when, as gotchas from Republicans doing it or Democrats doing it. I'm just not interested in it. I think I'm interested in the future of the country. And I do think that this is part of the reason why you have public loss of trust, not just in government, but in the media and other institutions. My best advice to the Republican Party, and I think the Democrats would probably be well served with the same, and our country would definitely be well served by it, is if both parties offer a vision for the future, learning from the past, yes, but a vision for the future to say, here's how we're going to make it for a stronger United States of America. That's just the scope of what I'm interested in right now, 100 days out, less than 100 days out from one of the most important elections, if not most important election of my lifetime. That's where I think I'm interested in spending my airtime. And if you are, I'd love to join you in that.
So when it comes to election integrity,
Zuckerberg definitely funded a lot of the DNC stuff. He's not getting off the hook. He's not getting off the hook. Okay.
such an important conversation when it comes to the context of the rest of the year. Because if the USA uses the same system as they did last time, and then Kamala Harris ends up beating Donald Trump, you can only imagine the sort of civil unrest that could occur. And for those who do pray for the downfall of America, this would be the best case scenario. You see, Vivek is absolutely right, and he's holding his tongue here about the 2016 election, just for an example. They were calling Donald Trump an illegitimate president, and then for years, they were hounding on about Russian interference, saying that Russia influenced the election in favor of Donald Trump.
Top Trump officials, including the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, his campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and Manafort's deputy, Rick Gates, conspired with the Russian government and its military spy agency to hurt Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton and help Donald Trump by hacking the computer networks of the Democratic Party.
The only difference is the Republican side didn't stage a false flag event to make the Democrats look like insurrectionist maniacs. I mean, BLM kind of painted that picture all themselves. So the only reason why anybody wouldn't want to fix the obviously broken system and have single-day voting with no mail-in ballots where everyone votes and it's a national holiday is if the dodgy system that currently exists favored you. And if you're actually happy to open the door to voter fraud with mail-in ballots and the rest.
Look at my brother's, who's a Democrat. It says 4212D. That's Democrat. Then you go here, because we're both the same address anyway, 4212R. Oh my God, they can see who my political affiliation is.
So with the state of things at the moment, I would be genuinely very concerned for the country if the right-wing, populist, nationalist, MAGA part of the population thought that they had another election stolen from them. Because it's at a point now where the endless wars, the $35 trillion in national debt, the cultural degeneracy, the homelessness, the fentanyl, the indoctrination and sexualization of children in schools and in the media.
We have created a school where everybody gets to be themselves.
Is destroying the country to the point where in the not so distant future, it might become irreversible. And then if somebody like Kamala Harris is elected, then all of those issues would get way worse because she is a far leftist ideologically. And it would be a devastating blow that would surely send the country off the edge. And I think a lot of people in America and around the world for that matter kind of get that. So on to the next bit now where the interviewer tries to continue with the similar sort of line of annoying and repetitive questions. And then Vivek starts to roast him subtly and then more overtly.
Yeah. Well, forgive me for asking about the past, but this isn't ancient history. This is 2 years ago, and Donald Trump is running for re-election again, and you're supporting him. And I think it's important to understand. And the reason I ask about your book is that it was published just 2 years ago, and in it,
just open it up and quote it right now. Do you have it handy?
Yeah, I got it.
I'm not. Yeah, okay,
So we got the quote that I think went viral when you were running in the primary was when you were writing about January 6th. You wrote, "It was a dark day for democracy. The loser of the last election refused to concede the race, claimed the election was stolen, raised hundreds of millions of dollars from loyal supporters, and is running for executive office again."
And that person's name was Stacey Abrams, is what I said in the book.
And then you said it was Donald Trump.
And then I put in Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So look, I've been very clear about this, and I think we just have a difference of interests in what we think is really important for the country. My time, as yours is, I'm sure, limited. All of ours is. I think that it is best served for the country to focus on how we take all of the learnings of the last 5, 10, and 20 years as a country to marshal that to a different vision of how we make our country stronger. That's what I'm interested in. I ran for president because I'm deeply worried about the future existence of the United States. I think we're skating on thin ice. And I just don't think it is productive to engage in this retrospective gotcha games. I could do it in reverse for the last 25 years amongst Democrats, and you're tempting me to. But I just don't think that's productive. And I think that this is part of what's the poison in the United States of America, as opposed to having honest, earnest, competing visions for the future. All right. So I hope, as a fellow citizen, from one to another, I hope that's not too much to ask. If it is, I think that we're in trouble. But if it's not, two people who have maybe differing views on the past or whatever are able to have a constructive discussion about competing visions for the future, even if they're deeply different ones, that I think is good. I think relitigating and playing gotcha games, we both could do this, dating back for 20 years, from Hillary Clinton to Al Gore to his supporters, to the people who didn't certify that election, to Nancy Pelosi not seating a democratically elected congressman from Iowa in the same election that Trump lost, to the big tech interference in the last election. I'm not interested in that. It seems that that's what you're interested in. My ask to you would be, how about we have a productive discussion about competing visions? They're very different visions for the future.
We don't have to relitigate the 2020 election anymore, but I do want to understand how you went from just 2 years ago calling Trump's conduct downright abhorrent to then supporting
I've said this during the campaign, if you're paying attention to the campaign, and maybe we'll just agree that, because I find this to be a little bit of a waste of time if we're just mired in the past, and I think there's just more productive ways to spend time than this. But
it's a reasonable question how you went from calling
I've answered
abhorrent to supporting him.
Well, it's you're I hate to break it to you, but there's the lack of originality in this. If somebody who ran a presidential campaign has been like, yes,
I have yet to heard the question answered.
So I think the facts that came out surrounding what the government initially put out around January 6th versus facts that came out later did have a palpable change on my perspective. The fact that there were video files and evidence that was withheld for a very long time that later became public, the fact that there were people charged. And I'm pretty civil libertarian to my core. I was against a lot of the post 9/11 actions that the government took. I was against a lot of holding even alleged terrorists without the due process rights that we think are afforded by our constitutional heritage. When you learned a lot of what happened, then my views did evolve. Yes, they did. And I was very open about that in my interviews with CNN to everybody else. I just think it's more productive not to rehash things that we've already talked about ad nauseum versus actually maybe broaching some new territory at an interesting point in our country's future.
Okay, so in your view, because you wrote in your book that the institution—
Are we still doing this, man? I mean, because I think that, like,
the book is 2 years old. It's a reasonable question to
I think your complete absence of interest in— I've raised the possibility of it a few times. Your demonstrated absence of an iota of interest in actually discussing two important competing visions for the future within 100 days of an election, and instead to go back and try to line edit and nitpick and airlift when we've had an entire year of not a new character here. Okay, ran for U.S. president from CNN to everybody else. We've been through this. That footage exists. I find this to be and I've explained it. We can do it again ad nauseum. I just don't think it's productive versus offering. Like, why are you so reluctant to engage in a competing vision of the future? I think there are differences of opinion on where the country should go. Why the reluctance to talk about it in the short time that we do have? And it is a short time, I'm sorry to say.
Well, you've laid out in your book very persuasively how Trump threatens institutions when he left office.
People can read my book. It's called Nation of Victims. You can check it out. It's the second book I've written 4 books in the last 3 years. Each one successively builds on what my views were on the last one. Woke Inc. was my first. I've openly said I agree with about 95% of what's in there, not 100%. I've written 4 books in 3 years. The 4th is coming out later this year. Read them. That's great. I have laid out what my views are with clarity. And my top view right now on this set of questions is we have a chance to fix the issue of public trust in elections. We have lost our collective American sense of public trust in elections. Kamala Harris, to Hillary Clinton, to Stacey Abrams, to a lot of figures on the left as well, have questioned the outcomes of elections. I don't think that's good. I don't want conservatives to continue to have to be in a position to do the same thing.
So this guy has 45 minutes of Vivek's time, and this is the line of questioning that he goes with. I mean, either he is mildly deaf and can't understand what Vivek's saying and can't read the room and understand that Vivek is about to cut this interview short, or he's just playing dumb and maybe wants to get a heated moment that goes viral. And like Vivek said, there are much more productive ways to have this conversation. And also, in terms of what Vivek said a few years ago, who really cares? Like he said, there's an election happening soon. And also, the United States are on the brink of World War III. They're currently sending Navy ships to the Middle East, and they're still funding the war in Ukraine. Plus, Trump was just nearly assassinated. So what we're looking at here towards the end of the year in November when the election happens is the most consequential election surely in United States history. So as a journalist, I mean, move on quicker. There are a lot of things on the horizon that are much more interesting. I mean, this is a very serious moment. But anyways, on to the next part now, where they talk about JD Vance. Now, recently, the media has been rallying against Vance and calling him weird. That's their new thing.
You guys are just weird. That's who they are. It's the weirdest thing. He'll go and like literally hug an American flag. Now, I love the flag, but I mean, it's like weird what he does.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird. I mean, they really are.
So let's get into this part. Then I'm going to add some clips for context. And we're also going to look at JD Vance's response to these claims and a little bit more.
Now, you objected this week to Democrats trying to frame the Trump-Vance ticket as weird, which is the new talking point of the Harris campaign. You called it dumb and juvenile. Is that what you mean when you talk about the free, mature exchange of ideas? Do you think that political candidates should aspire for more mature rhetoric and debate?
I think that mislabeling or just substituting for debate, instead castigating an entire group of people as weird, I think is problematic. And I can go into it in some depth here. I think America and our heritage, our founding fathers, were in some sense weird compared to old world standards, right? Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod. He invented the bifocal spectacle. Thomas Jefferson invented a swivel chair, a polygraph test. They had beliefs. I mean, Joseph Priestley was welcomed to the United States from old world England because he had beliefs that defied the traditional Anglican church. So I just think part of what makes America great is that we don't dismiss ideas based on being weird. And even worse, we don't just say, oh, you're a group of people who has a heterodox idea. That's weird and I'm not going to engage in it. The way we're going to actually engage each other is by engaging in the content of our own ideas. So I do think that it is a little bit adolescent, a little juvenile to say, whoa, they're weird. No, I don't think that's the way we should do it. And by the way, I try to be consistent. I think when I ran my campaign, a lot of Republicans had a different view, right? They said that we just want to go back to a normal America. You didn't hear that from me, right? Because normal compared to what? Weird compared to what? I don't just care about making America great again. I care about making America greater than it has ever been before. I think if your allegation against the other side is that they're weird, there's 2 problems with that. One is it denies the possibility of exceptionalism. Okay, Albert Einstein famously didn't wear socks. Nikola Tesla had a weird issue with the number 3. You could go straight down the list. There's some German philosopher, his name is slipping my mind, but his famous quote is, the only thing worse than madness is the utter absence of it altogether, which leads to imbecility. And America's the opposite of that spirit. So it denies the possibility of exceptionalism. It got under my skin a little bit. Even see a guy like Pete Buttigieg, used the word weird multiple times over the weekend to talk about J.D. Vance and Donald
I
Trump.
mean, no doubt. Look
It
in the
kind of
mirror,
hurts a little bit
Buttigieg.
because I knew Pete in college, actually. And one of the things that's almost certainly true about him is he was probably viewed as weird for much of the 90s, growing up as a hyper-articulate, scholastic, high-achieving gay person in the 1990s in Indiana. And that's too bad. But when I got to know him, he wasn't somebody in college who I remembered as denigrating people who disagreed with him as weird. And that's one of the reasons I actually respected him. So the other thing is it actually makes national unity impossible, right? When you designate the other side as weird, now what are Republicans in a position to do? I think Republicans could have at least as strong of a case saying you're weird because you can't define a woman, because you want to fight for men competing with women in women's sports, because you want to take away our gas stoves. That's weird. And then it becomes a context of which side is more weird, measured against a self-referential standard, as opposed to saying that, you know what, American exceptionalism involves embracing ideas that might seem weird at the time. J.D. Vance, maybe you like his solutions, maybe you don't, but our fertility crisis is a major problem in this country. We're well below replacement rate, and we're going to an economic Armageddon if we get to a ratio of workers to retirees that's less than 2 to 1, which we hit in the year 2060. But the problem with this level of discourse about labeling the other side weird is no one's talking about that, which is, I do think, a, if not existential, major economic ticking time bomb for the country. And instead talking about which side is weird versus not. It just feels un-American to me.
Right.
And so, yes, calling that out in forceful terms, I think is useful if we're able to also progress that discussion to say that we're not in the business of calling one side weird. And I haven't, I challenge you to take the hundreds of hours of footage of whether I've ever leveled that accusation against a Democrat. No, I haven't. Am I one of these people who say, I want America to be normal? What is normal? America's exceptional. That's a worldview. And I think that it is anti-American to charge at the other side the idea that somehow the fact that they're weird, it's the TikTok era's way of saying basket of deplorables. Basket of deplorables was to the Facebook era what weird is to the TikTok era. And I just don't think it's productive for our country, our culture, or the possibility of national solidarity. And so, yes, I am against it. I stand by that.
So I'm certainly not convinced about J.D. Vance as a VP pick. I mean, I think it should have been Vivek. I think that's pretty clear by now. But like I said, this is the left strategy. They want to call him weird. Now, I can understand questions about his loyalty to Trump. That's a fair criticism. I can understand criticisms about the way he views America's foreign policy. But weird, I mean, coming from the left, that is a bold claim. And now let's look at some of the clips that people have been roasting him about.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? I just wanted to ask that question and propose that maybe if we want a healthy ruling class in this country, we should invest more, we should vote more, we should support more people who actually have kids, because those are the people who ultimately have a more direct stake in the future of this country.
Man, if you had called for, I don't know, lowering tax rates to 0 or invading Canada or, I don't really know what, making the death penalty mandatory for people who don't get the vaccine, something really radical, they wouldn't even have noticed. The Atlantic would have just nodded. But saying something like that drove them insane. Why?
Well, I think first is because it actually hit a nerve. I mean, these people recognize that they're unhappy. They live in one-bedroom apartments in New York City. They've played their entire lives to win a status game. They're obsessed with their jobs. They're obsessed with their wealth and with their fortunes. And they look at middle America, people who are actually pretty happy with their lives and the choices that they've made. And they hate normal Americans for choosing family over these ridiculous DC and New York status games. And I think because of that, they just get so angry when somebody calls it what it is. It's acceptable if they ignore that it never happens. But when somebody calls out that, look, if you're a miserable cat lady, you should not force your misery on the rest of the country, they just get really upset about it. And I think, by the way, Tucker, it's a good thing that they get upset about it. It suggests that they know that we're hitting a nerve, not just in this campaign, but with this message that we should invest in American families in this country. If nothing else, we should be about healthy, stable families.
Well, I'll go back to something I said earlier about we need to reward the things that we think are good and punish the things that we think are bad. So you talk about tax policy. Let's tax the things that are bad and not tax the things that are good. If you're making $100,000, $400,000 a year, and you've got 3 kids, you should pay a different, lower tax rate than if you're making the same amount of money and you don't have any kids. It's that simple.
I totally agree.
So clearly, J.D. Vance believes that the fertility problem is a big issue in the United States. And I would completely agree with him about that. And if you don't address the declining birth rate, then you will end up like Japan and South Korea, who are heading for actual extinction over the next 100, 200 years. And also, he believes that people who are making decisions about the future of the country should probably have children. They should have some skin in the game, because then that way they might actually care about the direction of the country and the country that their children and grandchildren are going to live in, rather than just their own interests and their own bank accounts. And now that is an area where I'm in total agreement with J.D. Vance. So anyways, let's hear what he...
Yeah, and to everybody who doesn't have kids out there that gives a fuck, that is concerned about the future, that cares about the future generations and so on, you guys are awesome, man. You guys are awesome. There's a lot of people out there, though, that when they didn't decide to have kids, or they don't have kids, that they just become, very selfish and self-serving, one life kind of strategy, right? It's all about this life and my life, and this, they don't care about the future of innocence and, what they were once a kid, right? And so, that's that. I just want to draw the difference there, because there are people in this world that don't have children who are in the fight and they're in it for the right reasons, and they put skin in the game. But there's a lot of people that don't have any skin in the game, that have a very, just my one life, my short-term life here is all that matters. So I'm become very selfish and just, let the world crumble around me. I don't care, right? So it's a big difference.
He had to say in response to this.
Every time the Democrats attack us and attack our movement, they can't help but tell on themselves. They reveal how much they hate the American people. Now, remember this. Remember, Barack Obama said we cling to God and guns. Remember that? Hillary Clinton called us deplorables. And now Kamala Harris says we're weird. Well, Kamala, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about some things that are weird. We think it's weird that Democrats want to put sexually explicit books in toddlers' libraries. We think it's weird that the far left wants to allow biological males to beat the living crap out of women in boxing. We think it's weird for a presidential candidate to bail convicted rapists and murderers out of prison, and that's what Kamala Harris did. And I think it's especially weird when Kamala Harris comes to Atlanta. I believe came here to this arena. Kamala Harris comes to Atlanta and talks with a fake Southern accent, even though she grew up in Canada. You can't make it up. That's pretty weird.
So an accurate response there. I like this meme. The left. JD Vance is weird. Also the left. So if it was a weird competition, I think the left would have a very rough night at the office. And now onto the last bit, where Vivek touches on the fertility crisis a little bit more.
That's just the worst word they could have picked, right? It really is.
As well as what might be next for him.
I think that our country is in trouble if our political discourse and the kind of argument we make depends on which side labels the other as weird or nonconformist, because it requires a reference standard that is something other than the United States of America as a whole. Instead, I think the right question is, how are we going to make America greater than it's ever been before? And the number one way we're going to do that is by actually engaging in the open exchange of even unconventional ideas. And we would be remiss if we didn't get to the content of what spawned this. We have a fertility crisis in this country. Countries from Hungary to Singapore have adopted what we would view as extreme measures to address that.
They're like, oh, don't worry, we're just letting people in through the southern border. That should take care of it.
Problem, still with very limited success. And so the idea that because J.D. Vance proposed some level of solutions, maybe they're the right solutions, maybe they're the wrong ones, and you have completely entitled to your view on whether those are the right or wrong solutions. I think that we repress the kind of innovative culture if we just say, if you say something that falls outside of my version of an Overton window, you're weird, and your people who agree with you are weird. I don't think that's productive. I do think that having a competing vision from a Democrat that says, you know what, I would approach this differently, but here's how we would deal with the fertility crisis that's compelling. That's what I see is actually missing. And that's where I want to see our body politic go. We're not there now. But I think we can get there. And I think it's a big part of why I'm interested in conversations like the one that you and I are having. I'm interested in potential private sector action to de-silo the media and cultural commentary and political landscape. Nice. And you know what, if I was to go back and run for president, for all of the political disadvantages that strategy presented, I would still go back and do it again the exact same way, because I just think that is what the country needs right now. And, I'm hopeful that, and I know this, most ordinary Americans are rooting for the same thing. I just hope more people in the political leadership do the same.
But I'm wondering from you, looking forward to the future, if Trump does win in 2024, would you consider working in his cabinet?
Yeah, of course I would. I want to have a maximal impact on the country. I'm also considering other paths. For me, the top focus is a lot changes, depends on what happens in the next several months leading up to the election. And so my focus is on doing whatever I can to make a positive contribution to the right outcome in November. After that, one of the things I found is that when I make my own personal elaborate plans, it never goes according to that plan anyway. I'm guided by the same purpose that led me to the presidential race in the first place, which is that I do think that we're in the middle of a kind of national identity crisis, a loss of ourself, a sense of who we are as a nation. I ran for president because I think that there's an opportunity still to fill that gap, especially to reach the next generation. There's a number of paths for what's ahead for me, whether it's through the executive branch, whether it's through the legislative branch, whether it's in the state of Ohio versus at a national scale. I'm evaluating all of those possibilities, but we're going to have to see what happens this November before we jump the shark there.
So a few options there for Vivek. I mean, I personally would love to see him join Trump's cabinet in some form. I'd like to see him close to Trump because he would be a great advisor. And also, last clip, we're going to have
He's been saying that for the whole time. I've been saying that like the entire time, right?
look at is Vivek's messaging recently about the Republicans actually having to have a reset. And I think this is such a good point.
I do believe that we need a bit of a reset in this campaign. If we're being honest and being clear-eyed, I think the reality is Kamala's new de facto nomination, coronation, whatever you want to call it, after the Republican convention was a bit of a shock that caught a lot of Republicans by blindside. And the reality is we now have to take a big step back and say, we're going to offer our own vision of what we stand for. I think the attacks on Kamala alone are not going to be enough. We're already seeing that over the last week. I think we have to stand for our own alternative vision that we believe in merit. The reason that we're critical of identity politics isn't because we're against the Democrats. It's because we stand for meritocracy, and that's part of who we are as Americans. And so as much as I'm critical of the Democrats, I also think now is a moment for a wake-up call on our own side. We need to use this as a chance to reset and level set and focus on our own vision for the future of this country. And the more we do that, the more successful we're going to be. Frankly, the less we do it, the more risk I do see heading into November.
So I would agree with that. And I'd say that the Republicans probably do need to have a reset and should not get complacent at all. Because say what you want about the Kamala Harris camp, it's going to be a huge year. And the messaging and the optics are going to be so important for them moving forward. And the Republicans can't afford to be out of touch because that can be a real weakness of theirs. So anyways, guys, don't forget to check out Reality Based Store. Best merch in the game. And also don't forget to like the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.
Right.
And if you'd like to watch another video right here. But next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.
All right. Go, Jake. Good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought that was a great interview. You just showed, how to stay on point. And he always comes ready, man. He knows how to handle these situations and how to kindly and politely steer things back to the conversation he needs to have. And if he can't get past it, he just keeps reiterating it. Hey, we need to have better conversations than this. I think that says a lot about who he is and what he would do in leadership. Now, just to let you know, not really a flash in the pan, this guy, right? Last thing I have to show, and then we're going to jump over to and start reading chapter 9 of Woke Inc. But in case you are wondering, and I do have to speed this up for time's sake, but Vivek Ramaswamy, St. Xavier High School, 2003 valedictorian commencement speech. Yep, check this out. This is him at 18.
I've been racing my entire high school career. But now when we're finally crossing the finish line, I wish I could have stopped just a little earlier and caught a breath of the fresh air that had surrounded me the whole time.
I mean, he hasn't changed much at all. He's still up there confident, speaking clearly. I mean, and using those grown-up words.
Teachers, staff, classmates, counselors, and friends, I'd like to welcome you to the 2003 St. X graduation ceremony. And most of all, to the fellow class of 2003, we are finally here. Yeah, I guess we finally are here. But the last question facing us tonight is what this really means. In one sense, I feel that at long last, after struggle and after success, that tonight we have arrived. Yet in quite another sense, I'm only reminded of a quote we recently read in our English class, that it is better to travel than it is to arrive.
No teleprompter, no speech, right? He's not reading it off a piece of paper. He's not looking at a teleprompter.
Leaving me altogether confused as to how I'm supposed to feel right now. The word commencement comes from the French word commencer, which means to begin. And yet now we use that same word commencement to describe a ceremony marking the end to our four-year high school experience. And I know the idea is a little trite for graduation ceremonies, but then again, it's only trite because it's true. So tonight, which is it really? The climactic ending to it all, or simply the launch pad from which we now embark? The only answer lies in looking at our experience. And as I look back at our high school experience, from the latest Sunday nights spent preparing for a week's worth of workload ahead, to the lunchroom conversations spent debating the editorials in that day's issue of the Blueprint, to the after-school hours spent sweating it out on the football field, or on the soccer field, or on the tennis courts, or simply standing by to cheer another one of those teams on, to the late-night hours spent by the members of TX in the theater, prepping just those last few lines for the big performance in front of the full house on the night to follow, to the 8 o'clock Saturday mornings of the mock trial team spent practicing cross-examination after cross-examination just to perfect it, one more time to the mission trips taken this past summer from anywhere from over the Rhine, Cincinnati, to the rural areas of Peru, just to make that little difference in the world in which we live. Yes, as I look back at that high school experience, I would undoubtedly forsake our arrival tonight for just another chance to travel that path once again. But it's been said, and correctly so, that experience is like a knife. Its effect only determined by whether we hold it by the blade or by the handle. And we would all do ourselves a grave injustice if we were only to look at these shining moments. For just as real as these experiences over the past 4 years have been our experiences of grieving and of mourning, as individuals and as a community, for the loss of Steve McDevitt's mother last year, and of Trevor Kramer's father this year, and of Mr. Mueller's father this year, and of other loved ones along the way as well. Our experience of standing 2 years ago in disbelief as we watched the televisions in the library on the morning of September 11th, 2001. We've had these experiences, and the knife of experience stabbed us at these moments as much as it did sharpen us at all the others. And yet, whether it was these brutal stabs or that precise sharpening that have both taken place over the past 2 years, those experiences have already played crucial roles in shaping the people we have been and have become in high school, in our senior year, tonight, and in the rest of our lives to come. When I was trying to think of the moments that struck me most over the past 4 years, I was reminded of an encounter I had earlier in this year when I was volunteering at the Bethesda Hospital, when a man approached me in the hallway from behind, clutched me on the shoulder, and I turned around to face him, and he extended his hand out to me, and he said, "Class of 1985. A little shocked and at a loss for words at the time, I merely extended my hand out to him as well, paused for a second, and I said, "Class of 2003. That was it, and the two of us went our separate ways.
All right.
But as I turned around and walked away that day, and as I now turn around and look back at the time that's passed since then, I realized that when that man said class of 1985, he meant a lot more than just the date on which he graduated. For him, the words class of 1985 included all of the experiences he had had with friends, with classmates, with his teachers, and with himself over the 4 years that he had spent at St. X. Something more than a symbol that was stitched on his class jacket. Something more than a phrase printed at the top of his program at graduation. Tonight, 18 years later, the situation is still about the same. Tonight, as we graduate, our potentially mindless response, class of 2003, takes on a whole new meaning. One that comes to collectively include the 4 years preceding it, more than just this graduation we've all been working toward. So 18 years from now, when we look someone in the eye and say that we were class of 2003 at St. X, what will that mean? What will we remember when we say that we were class of 2003?
All right, guys. If you want to watch the rest of that, it's out there. Just type in Vivek Ramaswamy high school, and you'll get this video right here. But yeah, he's always had it, right? He's always had it. There he is talking to his entire graduating class and all the parents and everybody, just nailing it, not even breaking a sweat, man. Not even breaking a sweat. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to see some of that. And again, if you want to catch the whole thing, it's out there. But anyways, I'd like to thank each and every one of you on YouTube for coming to the kickoff show and being part of that. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you on Rumble and X for sitting through the kickoff show, because we are heading your way exclusively to do the reading portion of the show. That's just chapter 9, the Leviathan, the Silicon Leviathan. Yes, chapter 9 of Woke Inc. by Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's get over there and do it. And again, thanks to everybody that came to the kickoff show. It means a lot that you're here, and I hope you will follow us over to X, or Rumble to continue the evening with us. We've got a great chapter ahead of us, and we're going to go do that right now. The links are out there. They're pinned in the chat in the description. Mimsy just put out another one. If you want to come directly to, there's the playlist. Yeah, the playlist for the entire series, Woke Inc. So if you need to get caught up, there's where every chapter is after we stream it. All right, cool, guys. Thank you guys again so much. It's time to do it. Let's head on over to it. YouTube,
Man,
later.
everyone's tensed up for a rumble.